I'm Jacqueline Jansen, host of Architects of Opportunities, stories of founders of nonprofits. Founders are people who saw a need and couldn't walk by it without doing something. They designed a future and got their friends to help make a solution for the community and not for profit. Nonprofits provide essential services that are needed but not available. It takes all of us, volunteers, staff, and donors, to help nonprofits make the world more equitable. As founders tell their stories, when you see a mission that you can say, "This matters to me," get involved or take the next step. Thank you for watching Architects of Opportunities. We hope you are inspired to support your community through nonprofits. Hi everybody, this is Jacqueline Jansen at Architects of Opportunities. We're really excited today to be at the theater. We're at NovatoTheatre Company and we're interviewing Electric Bill Weinberg, the president, Kim Bromley, who is a 16-year veteran of volunteering, and Janelle Ponte, another longtime volunteer. Now, you may not know this, but every single person at NovatoTheatre Company is a volunteer. And we're going to find out more about them right now. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for being here. This is really fun for me, so I'm hoping it will be fun for you too. So we're here today with the members of the NovatoTheatre Company. I think you've all been presidents in the past.
I have not.
All right, okay. And we've got Electric Bill Weinberg, Kim Bromley, and Janelle Ponte. All volunteers.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about the volunteers at NovatoTheatre Company?
The volunteers are what make the company work. We are completely all volunteer. We have no paid positions. We have, we probably have 60 active volunteers. We have a mailing list of several hundred volunteers. And Janelle puts on a volunteer barbecue, which is a wonderful way to say thank you to the volunteers. We have members who support us with annual contributions and helping to run the organization. And we have subscribers who buy a season's worth of tickets and come to every show. So
why do they do that? Kim, can you talk about that?
They seem to really enjoy the experience, and once they've seen one show that they like, then they become galvanized to see more, and they understand that if you buy the subscription, you pay a little bit less per show. So they like that savings. But I get the feeling from some of our subscribers that they just like being a part of this experience. And they're not going to get on stage, and they're not going to come paint a set or procure a prop, but they want to be part of it, and that's how they do it.
And so Janelle, let's start with you. How did you come to volunteer here, and how long have you been doing it?
So I moved out here from New Jersey about 2010, and I wanted to get involved with a community theater, and so I found NovatoTheatre Company. We were actually over off of Pacheco Plaza. And I auditioned for a play. I was in Case of Libel. And after that, I had a couple people come up to me and say, "Oh, do you want to be a volunteer?" And so I became a volunteer, and from there progressed to being on the board. But I really, we can always use volunteers. And I learned that when I became a volunteer, how desperate we are we always need volunteers, never enough, because as Bill says, they're our lifeline. They're the reason we still survive. So we're always looking for volunteers.
So did you say 2010? So that's quite a long time.
About 8 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what was your history? Did you want to be an actor before that?
So, I mean, I grew up, I'm a pastor's daughter, so I kind of grew up performing songs, and I'd write skits and everything for church, and then I just kind of gradually started doing community theater. When I lived in New Jersey, I was directing a community theater, and then when I came here, I knew I wanted to get involved, and so that's kind of, I kind of just not really formally educated, but learned on the street, on the fly.
So you learn a lot being part of it.
Learned a lot, yeah. And I was mostly involved with children's theater, but kind of branched out to acting. And since I've produced, I've directed, helped with props, sets, everything.
That's what volunteers do.
That's what volunteers do.
And Kim, how did you come about being with the Marin Theater Company?
Well, I've been a theater geek since I was about born. Long time. And so I studied it in college. I was a theater major in college. And I had a little epiphany around the age of 22 that I was never going to be a professional actor because it's too hard. And I didn't want to be a 50-year-old waitress in New York City. So I went to film school. Like that would be lucrative, and it was. I had a pretty major career in the movie business, and when I sort of eased out of that in 2001, for a variety of reasons, I looked around. I had been attending local community theater productions, and I thought, that looks like fun, and it's something I know how to do. So I started showing up at NovatoTheatre Company in 2002. And I started, I think I started with Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which I'm now directing again. I was the assistant director on that, and I ended up being in the show when one of the brothers had to drop out. And there are never enough men in community theater. You always need, men. Many of these productions are male-heavy in terms of their casting. So I became one of the brothers, and the rest is history. I've acted, directed, done props, costumes, painted sets, pretty much done it all, taken the trash out weekly. So that's my background with it, and I'm today planning this season. I'm going to be directing a show, the final show of the season. Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. So that's my.
Yeah, I would say that sounds a good rendition of what it's like to volunteer there.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you have 60 solid volunteers. And how many does it take to put on a show?
100.
Oh!
No.
Okay.
That's probably an exaggeration, but it takes a lot. And the problem is you can't use those same 60 people show after show after show after show.
Right.
They burn out.
Uh-huh.
We're all part of our community, and we have families and children and lives and work. A lot of people work full time and do this too. So you can't just do it. So we need people to rotate through. You can't just have the same producer on every show. You can't have the same set builder. You can't have the same, because that's how you lose people is they burn out. So we're always trying to lure and seduce people into the theater and hope that they'll want to do as much of the fun stuff as we've been doing.
Well, in my experience, I know that people have certain things that are common. We either want to be actors, musicians, somewhere on stage, or maybe introverts. But I would think if people knew about it, you'd have a lot of people who, I did want to be an actor when I was young. Maybe I could participate here. Is that what the kind of people you get typically?
Mostly people come because they want to be an actor, and that's great. But that's a small part of the pie, and you can, like, I audition for a lot of things, and I don't always get cast because there are a lot of women in Marin County in my age group who are incredibly talented. So that it's a little bit harder for me. As I alluded to earlier, if I were a man, I would probably get cast in everything because they always need men. But what the stuff that we really need are the people who make all that happen. The people who stitch costumes and the people who run light boards and take out the trash, and we need props. We never have enough people who know how to pull together a list of props for us.
And Bill, is that where you come in, Electric Bill?
So I got my start in theater at Terralinda High School as a parent when my son was there, and it saved his life because he would have been totally bored by high school, except for the fact that they put on 4 productions a year, and so they were always in production for a play, and he just thrived there because the theater director there set the bar really high and just said, you guys do it, and they always did. It was amazing. So she was an inspiration to me, so I would just volunteer as a parent to help him build sets. And then they needed help wiring this building, and they called me. And that was where the connection was made between my volunteering, which I do a lot of, and this particular organization. And I got involved as a member and started attending meetings, and then I was asked to be on the board, and then I was asked to be president, and here I am.
His wife is one of our costumers.
That's true. Yes, so we keep it in the family.
And so, do you act at all?
No, I'm much more comfortable behind the camera than in front.
Okay.
I'm more of a tech guy. I like to build stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I like to organize things. I've always been, as a volunteer, one of the leaders. And so I was able to bring my skills here to that part of the organization of trying to formulate policy, get forms down. I was an old systems designer, so I could use that part of my background to just sort of regularize the operation.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm adding actors, musicians, poets, and builders, administrators. So just about anybody in Marin could come participate, it sounds like.
Oh, there's
yeah.
something for everyone.
Yeah, we need, when there's a show on, we need people who can manage the front of the house, and that involves opening up the kitchen and helping people find their seats and all that, taking out the trash. I keep talking about taking out the trash, but it's so important. That and volunteers who hand out programs and volunteers who sell tickets. So there's all of that. You don't need like an artistic skill set for some of the things that really would help us out.
Well, let me then ask Janelle, first of all, what's the mood like when you are at the point of opening? So you're opening next Thursday night, a chorus line.
Tomorrow night.
This Thursday night.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're going.
So the mood is frantic, excited. There's just a lot of energy, a lot of buzz going on. Most of it positive. Sometimes there's a little things that need to be tweaked or worked on, usually last minute, but it always comes together. And if you've ever been to an opening performance, you know that.
Yeah.
So.
And that's how you build community among the volunteers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's problem solving 101.
And spending time together.
Yeah, stuff happen. Like it's never perfect. And what I tell people when I direct is, things are going to go wrong. There's no way around that. You cannot set up a scenario in which everything's going to run smoothly. So the question isn't how can we keep something bad from happening. The question is, what are you going to do about it when it does?
What good training for everything.
How are you going to rise to the occasion? And I think that the thing that's fun is that you find this collective consciousness of people problem solving together. And that's one of the things that makes it very fun and energetic.
What I love about this theater is we are a community theater, but we strive for professional performances, but we always maintain that community vibe that just it's a warm, friendly, homey place. And I think the board, our members, our subscribers, even our volunteers, everybody strives to have that feeling. Because there are some professional theaters out there that don't have that warm, homey vibe. I shouldn't say professional theaters, just some theaters in general. But yeah, that's what I love about our theater.
So how do you choose a play? Bill, can you talk about that?
No, I can't.
Okay. That's not what you do?
That's not what I do.
I can actually talk about that.
Okay, Kim.
As I mentioned, I have never served as board president, but I have served as play reading chair. And I've been on that committee also as a committee member. So I know kind of what that takes. And having worked in the Hollywood studio system, it's interesting to me how those two things are pretty similar. So there are certain structures and certain rules to choosing a season, and one of them is you always want to open on a high note. In this case, it's chorus line. Traditionally, we've opened with a comedy. So you want to set the tone kind of light for the season. And then as the seasons get darker, the material can get darker. So that by winter time, if you want to do a heavy drama, that's kind of the time you want to schedule that. And then in the spring, you want to do another musical, and then you want to end with something that's maybe serio-comic, but splashy or well-known. The other thing you want to look for are known titles. You know, a lot of our subscribers, one of the reasons that people subscribe to live theater is that they can. So they have disposable income and they have the time to attend. That tends to make people older than 50. So you have to kind of set a season that they might recognize and want to come see. So some recognizable titles. And like I said, in the middle of the season, you can kind of sneak that new play in there that they might not have heard of, but because now they've got the subscription, they'll come check it out. It's a tricky balancing act. And the other thing that you're weighing is the finances. So what brings people in to see a show? Well, it's this splashy musical that they've heard of, or the one that they remember from the 50s. That might not be the musical that the directors want to direct and that the actors want to be in because they're tired of it. But it's what the audiences want to see. So just as in Hollywood, you have to balance the blockbuster with the artsy. And it's a very tricky balancing act. It's extremely hard to do. And in the middle of all of that, you've created a committee of 7 to 9 people, and they don't all agree on things. So it's a process.
Just like being in community.
Mm-hmm. It's just like politics. If you go to a town council meeting, you'll see the same dynamics.
Ah.
Yeah.
And so what have been your most popular plays?
Always musicals.
Yeah.
Always musicals.
Our big sellout last year was Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to repeat that success with the chorus
With the
line.
chorus line, yeah.
And how many does the theater seat?
99.
99?
99, it's a small theater.
Yes, that's wonderful.
And very intimate because we're only about 6 rows deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's got a really close view of the stage.
We've seen several plays here, and everyone has been so professional. I've laughed, I've cried. You know, they've been fantastic. And so we do enjoy coming. And so how do you get the word out?
Well, we have a PR person, and she gets us into, you know, the Chronicle and all the other different publications. She makes sure that the critics show up. And that's probably the biggest draw. If we get good reviews, then the plays do well, which is as it should be, I guess. And we have postcards we mail out. We have emails we send out to anybody that's ever bought a ticket.
Social media is big now.
That's true.
Yeah. But the number one way you get people to come to the theater is you put on a good show, and people like it, and they tell their friend, "You've got to go see that." It's always the word of mouth that really does the most for us.
Mm-hmm. And then what would you like to see ultimately for the theater? I mean, perhaps it's exactly the way you want it to be. But
no.
Is there something? Do you have a vision?
It's like my house. It's never done.
So I'll speak to that. So we have a subscriber base. We have about 160 subscribers, but there is a magic number out there that we'd like to reach for subscribers, which would mean less fundraising for the board, because let's face it, nobody really enjoys fundraising. But that, I believe that number is right around 260, so we're not that far off. So subscribers we'd love to see more subscribers. We'd also like to see more members if we have more members, and members have a say in what the board does and where the theater goes. So it's always nice to have a good membership base. Subscribers, members, and our volunteers, because there is always so much to do, and we don't want to burn out the same people that are doing things over and over. So.
And we'd like to build out some things. If you were to turn your camera sideways, you'd see that the wall doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. So that means that when a cast is warming up on stage prior to a show, the people who are waiting in the audience are, listening to that, and that's fun. But it lacks that sort of professional feeling that we sometimes strive for. We would love to have real dressing rooms. We have makeshift space that we turn into dressing rooms, but to build out a real dressing room would be a luxury. Just things like that. There's always things that you want to fix and improve on.
Can I speak on one of our biggest needs right now? A warehouse.
Oh.
So we currently have a nice big warehouse that we're renting from the city, but it's marked to be destroyed, to be demolished. So we have, I don't know how much footage is, how much
We have
square
about
footage is
3,000
that?
square feet of
About
stuff.
3,000 square feet of costumes and props and set pieces.
Furniture.
So that's one of our biggest needs, immediate needs, is to find a warehouse, someplace where we can store all our stuff. And we are a nonprofit, so the less we pay, the better. But that is one of our most immediate needs.
What's your
coming up.
date? For
Well, the city is currently building around where our warehouse is, but I'm going to say probably within the next year to 2 years, we are definitely going to be demolished, if not before then. So.
Okay, well that's what the community could do for you then.
Yes.
Hunt us down some space.
Help you with that. What else would you like the community to know about Novato Theatre Company?
I would say that we are a welcoming, really fun place to work, to volunteer. That if people get involved here, then they're going to find a community that embraces them with open arms. We have a lot of fun together. We have all these different events we do together, not just in the productions, but we're talking about parties that we have and, occasions off-site. And it's a very rewarding place to do your volunteering.
So how do you become a volunteer? I'm kind of interested.
Well, I would encourage everybody to go to our website, NovatoTheatreCompany.org. And there you can sign up to become a volunteer, you can become a member, you can become a subscriber, you can become a donor, you can do just about anything. You want to contact the board for a question. We have a pretty comprehensive website. So again, that's NovatoTheatreCompany.org.
Theater is ER.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that.
That's true.
Mary Weinberg, Bill's wife, is our volunteer coordinator, and she is very organized and she's very responsive, which is exactly what you want in a volunteer coordinator. So if somebody were to contact Mary and say, "Hey, I've got a garage full of old, of antiques. Do you guys need props, or can I help with, or I like to sew, or I like to paint," Mary will find a way to connect that person with the job that they're interested in.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you would call Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Her number's on the website, or
Or
a number.
email her.
Email,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then you would say, these are my talents, or
Yeah.
I could do this for a certain number of hours a week or month.
Exactly.
And she would hook you up. So, okay, so things that you've mentioned that I hadn't thought of, things that could be used as props, perhaps, when you're moving. Sewing, painting,
Yes.
electrical,
Yes.
Learning how to run a light board or a sound board. It's not that difficult. It's a lot of fun. I think the thing there for people is it's a time commitment, because when the show is in production, when we're putting on the show, it's Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. So you have to commit for 4 weekends sometimes. So that can be difficult for people, but it's really rewarding and it's really fun. And you're part of the show. When you're in that booth, you're a big part of the show.
And we train.
Yeah.
We train people. I mean, I was trained to be a lighting designer here. I had done lighting for film and certainly in people's houses, but I'd never done theatrical lighting before. And so I learned how to do that here. The same thing with spotlight operators, follow spots. We need them at every musical. And sometimes we need 2 of them. And that's a job where you get to sit there with the headset and hear that behind-the-scenes commentary that's going on. Oh, that didn't go well, or oh, good job, that kind of stuff. And it's really brings you into the community.
Yeah. And may I clarify one thing about the props? So we need people who are willing to organize that and who gather up these things. Because as Janelle said, we've got a warehouse that's kind of chock-a-block with stuff. We don't need more to store, but we need people who know or who are interested in learning how to be the organizational point person for, we need 5 pink handbags and we need, a candelabra, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And what about music? How do you do
Music
your
is
music?
a tricky issue because musicians are some of the few people who don't work for free. They don't need to. They get plenty of paid gigs and they don't need to play for free. So with musicals, we do actually have to pay musicians a stipend. There's no other way we can do that. But if somebody were a musician and wanted to volunteer, we would love to meet that person. And I'm sure they're out there. So we hope we find you.
Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I appreciate you being here, and good luck. And
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.